Hey, good afternoon everybody. I just want to do a quick little informative video on what's called the sexy shrimp. You can kind of get a good little view of them right there. Let's try to hold this camera steady netty. But alright, so if you're thinking about getting them, alright, and you're saying to yourself, well geez, I've got hogfish, certain types of wrasses, and lionfish. Should I get these shrimp? No, you shouldn't. Anything that claims it will eat ornamental shrimp, you need to not put these guys in there because they'll just be relatively expensive snacks. I've had mine for about 4 months now, and I bought 5 of them. Just like any invert, I'd recommend a drip acclimation method. Preferably close to an hour would be suitable. They run about, you can get them from anywhere from like $6 to $8-9 a pop, I guess, depending on how pricey the pet store makes it. But they're not that expensive. So you can get 3 to 5. They tend to kind of look better in an aquarium if there's like a group of them. And they'll hang out together for the most part. They don't always stay like bunched up, because sometimes I'll see one, 2 of them over here on the left side and then 2 way over here on the right side. So with sexy shrimp, there's always kind of been talk that they eat corals and things of that nature. I don't really think that's entirely true. I think it is partially true. So what I do, because I noticed that they were, always on my hammer and always on my Duncan coral, and they more or less host in the corals, and I think they're just kind of eating any dead things on the corals. But what I would recommend to feed them, I'm going to open this up real quick because I wasn't prepared, but there's these marine color pellets. You can buy these at pretty much any Petco, anywhere. I mean, they're not good for fish. They're real cheap, and a lot of fish don't even eat them. But if you notice, they're kind of bigger size, as opposed to these. I do feed my fish, and they're garlic infused, and the fish will eat these. But you can see the clear size comparison. These are actually really good. They're New Life. Come on, focus. New Life Spectrum. They're a regular formula. You can get these off BRS. So the reason why I like to give these sexy shrimp to big pellets, I'll tell you why. Because I've noticed that if you have problems with sexy shrimp on your corals, and they're really kind of just on them too much, drop some of these big cheap pellets in there. Because what they'll do is they'll just basically grab a pellet and chew on it for like 2 hours. Like, no kidding. They'll just chew on it, eat it, and if you drop enough, they'll all get one eventually. Sexy shrimp really don't like dive for food or anything. I mean, they'll scurry to it, but eventually they'll find it. They're opportunistic feeders. So I think to solve your coral problem before you go and buy these things and you're like, oh my god, like they're all over my coral and they're hitting my SPS and this and that, like, just try what I said. I've read a lot of forums on this, guys. Like, this is the general consensus for the most part. Now, like I said, and I think that sometimes they do eat corals, like especially zoanthids. I've heard a lot about them eating zoanthids, and I think that they actually will eat a coral if they're hungry enough. And the reason why I said drop the pellets down, I drop pellets down like maybe once a day, and I mean, if you're a dedicated enough reefer and you have the time, it's convenient. But if you're a reefer where you're not going to have time to drop down those pellets every so often, and make sure you get sinking pellets, by the way, sinking. If you're not one of those reefers, and I wouldn't recommend really getting these things, because you're going to run into the chance of them eating corals, and there have been accounts of them actually eating coral, and I think that if anything gets hungry enough, it's going to start eating. You know, it's like to say about angelfish, right? Like a coral beauty or whatever. It's like, hey, you know, the more you feed it, the less it might nip at a coral. You know, I mean, maybe, you know. So that's my thought on that. But like I said, great additions to a reef tank. They don't really bother anything. You can mix them with fire shrimp, cleaner shrimp. Not too sure about coral banded shrimps and stuff like that. That might be kind of iffy. But I know like a cleaner shrimp and a fire shrimp they'll be okay with, no issues at all. And they don't get much bigger than let's see, a pretty big one. That one in the back's pretty good size. They don't get no bigger than that one. I mean, he's a big guy. He looks like he's maybe 1.5 inches total. Maybe not 1.25 inches. So don't expect these guys to get massive. But anyways, that's all I got for this video. I hope that it was informative. And if you have any comments, or if you have any personal stories about any funny little stories with a sexy shrimp, or I don't know, something crazy like that, or if you have any stories about fish in general, like, I don't know, maybe a lionfish trying to eat a clownfish and he spit out because he has a noxious slime coat. Not toxic, it's noxious to where it just doesn't taste good when a fish puts it in its mouth. But if you have a story about that, if you have a story about a blue linkia that maybe, you know, thought was going to live and he died all of a sudden, like you always hear on websites, let me hear about it, man. If you got any stories about feather dusters or hammer corals that, yeah, we got to talk about this hammer coral these next couple of videos. That'll be a trip. But anyways, guys, it's Friday. I had the day off because I work 4/10s, and I hope you guys have a good weekend. And I'm out of here. See ya.